Welcome to the Bible Character Podcast. I'm your host, Delight, and today's guest isn't just someone we've read about. She's someone we've all felt a little bit of in our own hearts. She was the first woman, the first to see beauty before brokenness, the first to walk hand in hand with God, and the first to walk away from Him. Her story is not a fairy tale. It's not a myth. It's the first wound, written in flesh. She didn't have a childhood. She opened her eyes in paradise, and she watched it collapse. Most people remember her for one moment, one bite, one choice. But today, she speaks, not as a villain, not as a symbol of shame, but as a woman, a wife, a mother, a soul who once heard God's footsteps in the cool of the day, and then hid from them. She remembers what it felt like to walk in perfect peace, and what it felt like to lose that peace forever. Today, she tells her side of the story. This is Eve. Eve. Before we talk about the fall, before the serpent, before the fruit, before the pain, what was it like to be the first? To open your eyes and see paradise? What do you remember?
Thank you for having me, Delight. I remember the air. It was light. Not just because it was clean, but because nothing was heavy. No fear, no shame, just peace. I remember waking up, and the first face I saw was Adam's. He looked at me like I was a gift, and I was. Not because I was perfect, but because I was whole. The garden was alive, not wild, not overgrown, just right. The trees didn't compete. The animals didn't run from us. Everything knew its place, and I knew mine. God. He walked with us, not in thunder, not in smoke, just like a friend in the evening breeze. His voice was the safest sound I had ever known.
So you walked with God, like we walk with each other?
Yes. We didn't hide. We didn't panic. We weren't trying to impress Him or fix ourselves. We were just known. He would come in the cool of the day, and we would meet Him. No rush, no guilt, just joy. Adam would ask questions. I would listen. We'd laugh sometimes. And God, He enjoyed being with us. That's what I miss the most. Not just the place, but the closeness.
Did you ever feel unsafe, unsure?
Never. Everything was ours, except one tree, and even that felt clear. I didn't feel controlled. I felt trusted and free. I had no reason to doubt Him, no reason to want more. Everything I needed was already in His voice.
Eve, you said everything was clear. You felt trusted, free. But something changed. Something started to whisper. Take us back to that tree, to that voice. What happened?
It wasn't sudden. That's what I want people to understand. The serpent didn't jump out of the bushes. He wasn't loud. He was curious, gentle. He sounded like he wanted to understand God, like he was just asking a question. He said, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" I remember turning to him, and I thought, no, not every tree, just that one. So I said it. I repeated what God had said, that we shouldn't eat from the tree in the center, that we shouldn't even touch it, or we'd die. And then, that's when he tilted the words.
He twisted the truth.
Yes, just enough to sound possible. He said, "You won't surely die." He looked me straight in the eye and said, "God knows that if you eat it, your eyes will be opened. You'll be like Him. You'll know good and evil." And for the first time, I hesitated. Not because I wanted to disobey, but because I started to think maybe God was holding something back.
So it wasn't rebellion, it was doubt.
It was a seed, planted quietly, and instead of throwing it out, I watered it. I looked at the tree, and suddenly it didn't look dangerous. It looked beautiful, useful, desirable, and I thought, what if I just taste? What if there's more to God than He's letting us see? I didn't feel evil. I felt curious. But I didn't realize that curiosity without trust is a doorway to destruction.
Eve, you took the fruit, but you didn't eat alone. You gave it to Adam, the man who loved you, the one who had only known you in light. Why?
I stood there, holding it, and the garden didn't shake, the trees didn't fall, nothing around me changed, but something inside me did. I felt exposed, like the covering I had always known was gone. And then I saw Adam. He came toward me, smiling, unaware, and I held it out to him. I didn't say much. I didn't explain what happened with the serpent. I didn't say I had doubts. I just gave it, and he took it, without a question, without a word. He looked at me, and I knew he trusted me. That's what breaks me the most. He didn't hesitate, because I was his one companion, his helper, his friend, and he ate, because I gave it.
Did you think about stopping him? Telling him what had just happened?
Wish I had. He trusted me, and I broke that trust, not with a lie, not with force, just with an outstretched hand. And when he bit into it, something in both of us collapsed. The air didn't feel light anymore. The garden didn't feel safe. And for the first time in my life, I felt naked, even though nothing had changed on the outside.
You said you felt naked, even before you looked down. Eve, tell me about that moment. When the shame came, when the hiding began, what happened right after he ate?
It was like something cracked open. Our eyes adjusted to a new kind of light, a light that made us look inward. We looked at each other, and we didn't feel wonder anymore. We felt exposed, vulnerable, wrong. It wasn't just about our skin. It was about our souls. We had never known fear, but suddenly we were afraid. Afraid of what we had done, afraid of what it meant. And the worst part? We heard him. The same sound that used to make us smile, the footsteps of God in the cool of the day. Now it made our hearts beat fast with panic. I grabbed leaves, big ones. We didn't care what kind. We just needed to cover up. We hid. Behind trees he planted, in a garden he gave. We hid from the one who had never hidden from us.
What did you feel in that moment, when you heard him call your name?
I wanted to disappear. He said, "Where are you?" And we couldn't answer like we used to. Not with joy, not with ease. My husband said, "I heard you, and I was afraid. So I hid." And that was the first time we used fear instead of faith. The first time we hid from the one who made me.
And what did he say?
He asked, "Who told you that you were naked?" And with those words, I broke. He knew. He already knew. And I said what I didn't want to say. The serpent deceived me, and I ate. I didn't lie. But I was still lost, because the truth doesn't undo the act. Confession doesn't remove consequence. And even though he was still speaking to us, something had changed, something between us and him.
Eve, he didn't stop speaking to you, but his words weren't the same anymore. What did it feel like to hear the voice of God announce what came next?
It felt like the ground opened under me, and not just under my feet, under all of creation. His voice, the same one that had said, "Let there be light," now said words that would follow me for the rest of my life. "Because you have done this." He spoke to the serpent first, then to me. "I will increase your pain in childbearing. You will bring forth children in pain." And I knew what that meant, that the joy of life would now come through pain, that the beauty of birth would be wrapped in blood and tears. Then he said, "Your desire will be for your husband, but he will rule over you." And just like that, the oneness we had, me and Adam, became something uneven. The harmony became struggle. The equality became tension, and I felt it deep in my bones.
What hurt the most?
That I couldn't stop it. I couldn't plead. I couldn't undo it. It wasn't a punishment like a parent scolding a child. It was a shift, a line drawn across time. I had done something I didn't fully understand, but the cost was now clear. He still looked at us. He still spoke, but something holy had been broken. And the worst part was knowing that every life that came after me would carry this crack in their story.
Did you feel abandoned?
Not completely, because even in the judgment, there was a promise. He said to the serpent, "The woman's seed will crush your head." It wasn't loud, it wasn't long, but it was there, a seed, a hope. A child would come and somehow undo what I had done. That's the only reason I could breathe again.
Eve, what was life like? After the garden? When the gate closed behind you, and you had to start again?
It was cold, not because the air changed, but because something in me had. We left barefoot, carrying nothing but regret, and the world outside Eden was not like the one inside. Thorns, hard ground, silence. We had to learn things we were never meant to learn. How to dig for food, how to hurt each other with words, how to cry. I had never cried before. I didn't even know how, but it came, and it didn't stop. Then I got pregnant. And for a moment, I thought, maybe this is the seed he spoke of. Maybe this is the child who will fix everything. And I gave birth, and I named him Cain, because I said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." And then came Abel, gentler, quieter, and for a while there was joy again. We were a family. It wasn't Eden, but it was something.
But then you lost that too, didn't you?
Yes. I watched one son take the life of the other. I screamed until my throat gave out. There's no pain like a mother burying her child. And worse, losing the other to guilt and exile. I lost both sons in one day, and I thought, this is what it means to live outside the garden. Pain wasn't a punishment anymore. It became normal. Every ache in my body during childbirth, every harsh word between me and Adam, every night I stared at the stars and remembered the light in Eden, it all became part of life. I carried it like a weight in my bones, and yet, somehow, I still believed. I still held on to that one promise, that a child would come, one day, not to hurt, but to heal.
Eve, if you could go back, would you do things differently?
Yes, I would have asked more questions. I would have waited. I would have trusted the one who walked with me, instead of the one who whispered to me. But I can't go back. And for a long time, that haunted me, because every broken thing I saw, every war, every tear, every tomb, I wondered, was that my fault? I carried that question for years, until one day, the promise became a person.
What do you mean?
I heard stories, passed down from child to child, generation to generation. They said a virgin gave birth. They said angels sang in the sky. They said wise men followed a star, and shepherds ran with joy. They said his name was Jesus. And the first time I heard that name, my knees buckled, because I knew he was the seed, the one God had whispered about, even while I stood shaking in my shame, the one who would crush the serpent's head, not with noise, but with obedience. They said he walked with people, like God used to walk with me. They said he forgave, touched the untouchable, and loved the ones everyone else wanted to stone. And they said that he carried a cross, a wooden tree, just like the one I reached for. But this time, instead of taking, he gave. He hung on that tree and took the curse, my curse, your curse, all of it. And when he rose again, the garden door began to open again. Not here, not on this earth, but in the heart. That's when I stopped holding my breath. That's when I let go of the question, can I ever be forgiven? Because the cross answered it. Yes. Even the first woman, even the one who handed Adam the fruit, wasn't beyond redemption.
So Eve, if a woman listening right now feels like she's broken too much, ruined too much, what would you say to her?
I'd say this: you're not too far gone. You're not too stained. You're not too late. I was the first to fall, but you don't have to stay fallen, because Christ didn't just come through me, He came for me, and He came for you too.
She was the first to fall, but also the first to hear a promise of redemption. Eve's story is not just about the beginning of sin, it's also about the beginning of grace. She walked with God, and then she walked away. But God didn't walk away from her. To every woman who's ever made a choice you regret, to every man who trusted the wrong voice, to anyone who feels like your mistake has rewritten your story, there is still a Redeemer, and His name is Jesus. He stepped into the world that was broken to open the door to something new. So don't hide, don't run, and don't think you're too far gone, because the same God who covered Eve with mercy is still covering people like us, even now. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Bible Character Podcast. If Eve's story spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone. Comment below and tell me what part of her story felt like yours. And please hit the subscribe button and let me know who should be in the studio next. I read every message, and I'm praying with you. That grace will always have the final word. I'm Delight. See you in the next episode.